Hey, this is Allison. I am so excited to bring you this podcast today about setting impossible goals. John and I had a great conversation. It was kind of lengthy, but a lot of content here. So we decided to cut it in half for you so it's easier to digest. You're going to get half of it this week and half of it next week. So join us both weeks for this amazing content about setting impossible goals. Enjoy. Hey, John. We are back from our 2-week European vacation, ready to record episode number 8, Impossible Goals.
Jet lagged as ever.
Jet lagged for sure. We went to Europe with the kids.
Yeah.
We went with our 4 kids, and tell them what cities we went to.
So we first started in Rome. And then after Rome, we went to Venice and spent a few days there, and then spent 5 days in Paris, and then another 4 days in London.
Yeah.
And so now we're back home.
We are. We just got home yesterday. Was it yesterday? No.
It was
I've lost track.
Saturday.
I've lost track of the days.
Yeah.
It's all been blending together. But it was a wonderful trip. We had so many good memories.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was maybe 3 days too long, but
For whom?
For me.
Oh, okay.
Right. Maybe I think some of the children as well, but no regrets. It was fabulous. We had such a good time. And it's always something I've wanted to do. Traveling, as you know, we've been married 23 years. You know that traveling...
It's her love language.
I feel like I'm a low maintenance wife. I don't spend a lot of time or money on like things for the house or my clothes and things like that. But I do spend a lot of time and money on traveling.
There's only basically 3 things. It's chickens, rabbits, and travel.
Well, is there anything else? Really? Like, if I have those things, I'm a happy woman. So I've always valued experiencing the world and cultures and seeing what's out there and how different people live. I just think that's fascinating. So what this has to go into our topic for today, impossible goals. 16 months ago, I learned about this concept of impossible goals, and I was encouraged at that time to make a huge goal, something I have wanted but have always considered to be impossible, and then to write it down with all the details of that impossible goal. So at the time, I was like, well, I kind of was bashful about it, but I said, I want to go on a 2-week trip to Europe with our whole family, all 6 of us. And we're going to talk about that today, and then the importance of setting impossible goals and how to achieve them. So we have 6 tips that we're going to share today. And at the end, we're just really going to summarize why that's so important. So the reason I wanted John on this podcast, sometimes it's just me here, sometimes I have another guest, but I wanted John specifically on the podcast today because something I've always admired, and we've been married for 23 years now, but something I've always admired about John is his ability, and I'm not overstretching here, to make anything happen. Anything. I've never heard him say it can't be done or it's not possible. He's a problem solver. He's creative. He's this out of the box thinker. So we were talking today on our bike ride. I said, we're talking about this podcast a little bit. And I said, why do you think you're that way? Why do you think you've always kind of had that mindset of things being impossible?
I really can't put my finger on exactly why that is, but I mean, I try not to look at things that may limit me. And I guess maybe I learned that from my parents. My dad was a firefighter. My mom stayed at home with the kids, and they always seemed to be able to make their money stretch or do the things that they wanted to do. And it took a lot of creativity.
I know stories about your dad, I think your family car, your dad took 2 cars and welded them together or something like that. Mm-hmm. Just like made it happen.
Yeah, they needed a car but didn't have the money. And so he bought 2 wrecked cars and made 1 good car out of it.
there's also another story of your dad. And John and I were raised in the same neighborhood. You have to understand this. Our families knew each other growing up. Not that I necessarily knew John, but our families knew of each other growing up. And there was a story about your dad, you and I think it was your mom and dad really into biking. And your dad went to go look to see how much spandex biking shorts were at the store.
Oh yeah.
And he didn't like the price. So he went, and this is me as like, I think I heard about this when I was 12.
Oh yeah. We were the laughing joke of the neighborhood. We were the spandex family.
And this was before spandex was popular. I mean, everyone wears it now, but, the rumor was that he went and bought his own spandex material, created a pattern, and made his own spandex shorts for he and your mom. And when I married into the family, I said, hey, you got to let me know if this rumor is true, because this is what people are saying. And they said, oh yeah, absolutely. And not only that, the spandex wasn't in the color that he liked.
Oh no, it was baby blue. Because he didn't want to buy the expensive black spandex, baby blue. Who wants baby blue spandex? But yeah, and he then taught me how to sew my own spandex pants and dye them, and so I got my first experiences with tie dye at that point too. So that was kind of fun.
You probably started the trend in the 90s if you think about it.
Tie-dye spandex shorts.
That sounds incredible right now. Okay, so I mean, I won the in-law jackpot. I just have to say that. Like, my in-laws are amazing. Your dad is very creative, very resourceful. Your mom is the get it done, let's get it done kind of person. And I think that had a lot to do with your mentality, probably, for achieving what most people would think was impossible. So first tip I want to share with you today is to dream big dreams. Okay. I want you to embrace your imagination. Okay. Think about the boundaries that you or society that you feel society has set for you. And don't be afraid to be ambitious. When you dream big dreams, you will fulfill your potential. How exciting is that? Discover your passion, your purpose. What are your deepest desires? Think about it. When we are engaged in talking about our futures, okay, with John and I, this is again over 23 years ago, we were, we'd spend time on the hammock out in your parents' backyard.
Hammock time was awesome.
And we would never kiss in the hammock. That was like our place to talk.
Communicative
so
time.
Nothing awry went in that hammock, just talking about our futures.
Yep.
And I was studying communications at Arizona State at the time.
And miserable.
And I was already bored with it. Yeah, I was miserable. But I was thinking like it was a very practical thing to do. But I loved art and I was very passionate about art, but I thought it was not practical to major in art.
Well, you were taught that it was not practical to major in art.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I mean, again, the society and myself putting boundaries on what is possible, what I'm capable of, what's practical. But John, at the time, this is the first memory I have of him encouraging me to dream big dreams. Why did you do that? John said, go to art school. You love art. Go do it. Why? Why did you do that?
Well, at the time, I mean, I would say that I wanted you to be happy. And I know that we can't achieve our happiness unless we're actually fulfilling our purpose in life. And, I didn't know much about purpose back then, but I guess I had an inkling about that, when we get stuck in an area that we don't want to be stuck in, we can't become the person that we're supposed to become.
Yeah.
And you do have that inner creativity inside of you. And why not take advantage of that? Why not go learn it?
Yeah. Amazing. And so I had this opportunity in front of me to do what I really wanted to do, and I wasn't doing it. I mean, nothing was limiting me from going to study art besides myself. And it was for many reasons. I thought it wasn't practical. I'm not good enough. I don't know where that will lead.
I won't make any money.
So when we dream big dreams, we allow ourselves to break free from those limitations and really envision a future that's greater than our current circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that. So the reality was I also wasn't good at communications either, and I didn't know where that would lead either, but I thought it was safe. But dreaming big dreams allows us to believe in something extraordinary, to strive for greatness. It ignites your creativity, it fuels your motivation, so that when it does come to those days and those hours, long, tedious, when you're working tirelessly trying to achieve your goal, that you have a purpose because you believe in it, and it aligns with your purpose and what you want for yourself. You have more drive and more desire. So I think that is really important. Number one, to dream big dreams. Allow yourself to dream big dreams. Okay, number two is to look for evidence of how it is possible. And this is something we were talking about today on our bike ride this morning, that John, like he said, his dad's a fireman. There's no real college graduates in his family, definitely nobody in the medical field. And
I tell my patients frequently I come from a long line of rednecks.
Yeah,
and it's kind of true. A lot of farmers,
Yeah.
a lot of tradesmen, and wonderful people, but just not a lot of like professionals that have gone to post-secondary school.
Yeah. So, and John's done a lot in his life that many people would say that's not possible, especially coming from, your circumstances. It's just not possible to think that big and so he, at the time we're getting married, again, 23 years ago, he wanted to be in the medical field. And not just that, he wanted to be a specialist. And he didn't know exactly what that looked like or what he was going to do. But he started talking about it and discovered he really wanted to be a specialty dentist of some sort. And now he's gone from that to not just starting, but selling multiple dental practices. So why, John, would you set that impossible goal for yourself? Why did you even consider that it would be possible?
That's a real good question. And I don't know if I can answer that exactly, but I want to go back to my childhood just a little bit, if I could.
Let's go back.
Okay, all right. So I grew up in the garage right next to my dad. My dad was a part-time firefighter, but he machined a lot in the garage. All right, so
still does.
Yeah. But frequently I would have toys that break down. Whether it's my mini bike or whatever it was, my bicycle, things would break, and I certainly didn't have the money to fix them, and my dad didn't have the money to fix them. And if we didn't have the money to fix them, then what's next? Well, we decided to make the parts.
Machine the parts.
Uh-huh. If I can't pay for it, let's make it. And so my dad taught me that at a very young age, that, just because perhaps you can't afford something doesn't mean that you can't have it.
Yeah.
It took a little bit of extra work to get those parts. And, I got to learn a lot along the way with machining parts and making things for my motorcycles. But it was a good education for me for the future of not limiting myself. For instance, this is 23 years ago, I was a computer tech.
Yeah. Making pretty good money.
Making excellent money at the time, but it was that mindset that even in my computer, I would say my first career as an IT brat, that I learned that we first have to determine exactly what the problem is. Let's troubleshoot the problem. Let's find out where the problem is, and let's find solutions to the problem. And so it was always that whole solution mindedness. There's always a solution to every problem, even if it's replacement of a computer or whatever. And so I would say that the solution finding.
Yeah, absolutely. And finding those solutions just made it more possible for you to achieve what you wanted to achieve.
Everything is possible, I believe.
When we were talking this morning about dental school,
mm-hmm.
and you were saying, and I said, why would you even think? Because this is why I asked that, because at the time, and I don't know if it has changed at all, but it seemed as though the dentists that were graduating all came from dental families.
Well, they did, and they knew how to play the game, and they
They knew
knew grades were important.
Yeah, they knew what classes to take, what people to talk to. It even on your applications said, do you have family members? I don't know if it still does this.
Oh, it does.
Do you have family members that are dentists or that have gone to this school? And that was like a way in for so many people.
Yeah, legacy is a big thing.
Yeah. And so when you didn't have that legacy, but yet you still wanted to get into dental school, you were saying that you had someone that you knew in your life that had already done this.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, if I didn't know how to do something, then the first thing to do is to find a good coach.
Yeah.
On how to do it. So, I mean, myself, instead of looking at the goal of becoming a dentist or a specialist as impossible, we flip that around and say, okay, how could I make this happen? Or can it even happen? And so I went to look for evidences of the fact that, me coming from a blue collar family, with no grades at all. I mean, my grades were terrible. They were terrible.
And not because you weren't smart. You just didn't care.
No, I didn't care.
Yeah, you wanted to be in the garage building your dirt bike.
Yeah. I was a hands guy, not a book guy. And so I had to find evidence that this is possible. And the first person that I looked to was Jim Hamberlin. He was very instrumental in
Little Jim.
Yeah, we know Big Jim and Little Jim. But he was very instrumental in guiding me on what it is that I needed to do. And I chose him because he came from a blue collar family. His dad wasn't a doctor. His dad sold construction supplies and design supplies. And at one time even owned a sports outfitter, like for fishing and hunting, like a hunting store.
One of my dad's best fishing buddies of all time. Jim
Absolutely, Hamberlin.
And so little Jim, he became
he's an endodontist, so he's a root canal specialist. And so I went to go talk to Jim. And actually I remember you and I sat down with him together and said, hey, Jim, this is what we would like to do. We see you've done it. How do we do it?
Amazing. There are people out there, I mean, that have set the way for us if we just look for those people that show us how it was possible.
And ask for help.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, why not ask for help? These people, and they're usually so willing to help also. I mean, Jim spent a lot of time with you. I remember at the time just showing you how to do it. And you have now shown that to several people as well.
I strive to do that anytime I can.
How to help them.
If they want to achieve their dreams, then, by golly, let me show you how I did it and maybe give you some advice on that.
Yeah. And the journey is going to be different for everyone, but overall, how to make those steps. So when we're looking for evidence, what this does is it encourages us to adopt a positive mindset, something more proactive. And so instead
of interesting how the brain works that way. I'm sorry, I've got to interject here. That when we have a negative mindset of I can't do this, it actually shuts the brain down.
Absolutely. When we say we can't, we're focusing on those limitations. And when we face big challenges, we're going to be more skeptical. We're going to be more concerned. We're going to be more apt to fail. And when we have that, when we're looking for the evidence of how it's possible, it changes our mindset. So we're consciously looking for evidence of how it is possible. Our attention shifts to finding solutions and inspiration
instead of problems,
rather than problems and excuses. And yes. So, however, that being said, mindset is not everything. We don't want to delude ourselves into thinking that just because I have this positive mindset, there's not going to be challenges or obstacles, which brings me to our next tip. This is one John brought up this morning. Embrace the inevitable failure.
Absolutely. The F word is not a bad word.
What do you make the F word mean? Failure. What does that mean to you? So when I a few years ago. How long has it been? I think it's been 5 years, but you went on to increase your training and to do zygomatic implants,
Oh
to
yeah,
place zygomatic implants.
yeah.
And explain what that is to everybody first.
So, in my field, I do a lot of implant placement for dental reasons, and so people want teeth, and I help give them teeth. But part of that is putting some anchors in the jawbone. Well, a lot of patients come to me that have been told, "Well, I'm not a candidate for dental implants because I don't have the bone anymore,"
Yeah,
which is not true. It's you're talking to somebody who has limitations
right.
to their skill in order to deliver what it is that you really want or need. And one of the things that I saw I was lacking in my toolkit to give patients that opportunity was placing zygomatic implants. Now, essentially, that's a cheekbone implant. So it supports teeth, but it anchors into the cheekbones way up high. And so we wound up putting in like 2-inch fixtures in the jaw just to support teeth.
I mean, imagine a standard dental implant being how long?
It's only like 10 millimeters long,
millimeters
and I'm placing 50 millimeter implants for the
to
cheeks.
go all the way, and we're talking very close to the occipital
The nerve,
nerves
the eyeball, the
yeah.
sinuses, everything. I mean, I'm up against everything in those areas.
And why? What this is, I mean, I just knew that you wanted to do it. It's not my place to ever hold you back because I know that you are skilled and capable and you have this desire to help people that have been told no so many times. But why did you want to get that training when so many other doctors avoid? They don't want to even try.
Well, my goal in my practice and my purpose with whatever I do is to not only lift people physically, but emotionally. And when somebody comes to me with an emotional need, I need to be prepared to help meet that need. That's a personal thing that I've set for myself. Uh, Now, that means that I am constantly needing to up my game because every single new patient I see, I've been preparing to see that patient all throughout my career. And so, yeah, I did need to get more information and more training on zygomatic implants. And the evidence that I saw, I mean, there weren't any periodontists I don't even think in the state of Arizona that placed zygomatic implants. I was one of the first guys here in the state. Periodontists, oral surgeons place them, but I got to thinking to myself, well, I do all the same, very similar surgeries to oral surgeons. I'm very adept at placing dental implants. If they can do it, why can't I?
Yeah.
So that engaged then my creativity of, okay, what do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to? What training do I need?
And as far as failure was concerned, I mean, this is a big risk for you, don't you think? Is that what did you ever consider the idea of failure and risk and what if it doesn't work and what if I mean, you can cause blindness really going up into that area. I mean, doesn't that concern you? How does that not hold you back?
It does concern me. I mean, with every surgery, there's always stresses, but the patient wants this so badly, and it's my job to partner with them. It's not all on me. They have to make the decision to trust me and put themselves in my care. And yeah, I have had failures. That's why they call it practice. I mean, I have a dental practice, and especially at the level that I am practicing right now, it's high risk, and so I have to let patients know, hey, this is high risk, but they don't see any other option because they have their impossible dream
To have a smile again.
to have a smile again and be able to chew and be able to brush their teeth and not wear a denture.
It honestly, the things I've seen from coming out of your practice, it changes lives. I mean, people are able to get jobs, they're able to date again, they're able to have their life back.
Oh, I told you about the taxi driver, right?
No.
I mean, this dude, he came in, he just looked like he was very destitute. Let's put it that way. But he had someone who would fund his work for him.
Oh, wow.
He came in severely depressed, and so we rebuilt his entire mouth and his smile. all the while getting to know this guy. And it's just amazing what happened with his countenance, that when he was able to get through and actually have permanent teeth, he comes back a year later. Hey, so how's life going? Well, I decided to get back to my original career.
Which was?
Oh, I just thought you were an Uber driver.
Yeah.
He says, well, no, I'm actually a physical therapist.
What?
That's my training. And I haven't done that for years because I've suffered from depression and stress and not having teeth and hiding myself in my house. And
wow.
Now that I had this smile back, all my confidence came back, and
wow.
I went and recertified, and I'm practicing my career again.
Oh, tears.
How cool is that?
That's amazing. So how did you feel during and how did you feel after your first zygomatic surgery?
I tell people about this all the time, and I do train people on how to place these things now. But I remember my very first case was a 95-year-old woman who wanted to die with teeth in her mouth.
Okay.
Like she said, no matter the cost, no matter the risk, I want teeth in my mouth when I pass away.
All right.
And so she came into me, and she was my first case where I did 4, they call it a quad zygoma. So I did 4 dental implants in her mouth to support
wow.
a bridge on her upper jaw. And it was the most uncomfortable in my career that I have ever been.
Wow.
In fact, afterwards, I'm not bashful about it, but after I finished the surgery and it was a success and everything was great, I took all of that confidence that I was feeling and went away from everybody else, locked myself in my office, and just cried like a baby because of the stress that I underwent and what that growth, the pain of that growth
is caused. Very painful.
Yeah, but either I could have pain by growing, or I could have pain in the regret of not doing what it is that I do now.
Wow. Which pain are you willing to suffer?
I would say the pain of growth is much better because it keeps me in that forward motion.
Yeah.
I mean, why else are we here on life but to have the greatest and best experience that we possibly can?
Yeah. I mean, history will show you that there have been no significant advances or achievements by people that have never failed.
No, you have to fail.
You have to fail. You have to get, not just fail, but you have to get comfortable with failing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like we were talking about earlier, what do you even make that mean, failure? Of course, we're familiar with the Thomas Edison quote of the light bulb.
Yeah.
I didn't learn, what is it?
It was, I didn't fail so many times.
I didn't fail 1,000 times. I learned how to not
make a light bulb.
How to not make a light bulb 1,000 times. And so when you aren't afraid to fail, and what I'm gleaning from this conversation with the zygomatic implants, when you're not afraid to fail, those setbacks that you have become stepping stones. And every time something doesn't work out, you learn from that, you grow from that. And really, how do you learn and grow if you don't have those setbacks, if you don't have the failures? You really don't learn.
There is no greater instruction than failure. It really is. You learn so much because you're there firsthand. You're not taking somebody else's word for it.
Yeah.
No, you experience that, and now you've got that experience to carry you on to the next level.
I think that's something that you are very passionate about learning firsthand.
I'm not a vicarious guy. If there's a light socket and somebody says, don't go stick your hand in there, I've got to go figure out what's going to happen.
Yeah, our son has the same, I was going to say problem, the same learning paradigm.
We could call it an issue, the same issue.
Oh, that kid. Love that kid. Hey, I hope you're enjoying this episode all about impossible goals. We have even more great tips to share with you next week. So please join us for the rest of this episode, Impossible Goals. See you then. I hope you found value in what you heard today. If so, please follow us and go give us that 5-star rating. It really helps us reach more people that need to hear this message. Also, if you're ready to make changes to your health and well-being, go check out our Fat to Fuel program. Our coaching program empowers you to make healthy changes to your life one step at a time. Go to fattofuel.com or click the link in the show notes. We hope to see you there.